had a nice JDD. It was my first one. I'm very happy to be there. It was an awesome event, so I hope you had fun, and thank you for choosing my talk for the last talk of the conference. We're going to talk about important things, which is how to inspire the next generation of technologists. So that's what Code for Life is all about, and I'm going to talk to you about it. So first, let me introduce myself, but I'm going to begin with a question, actually. Can you please raise your hands if you learned, well, I would say at least the basics of programming when you were a kid, before like 12, 13, something like that? Okay, so a few raise hands, but not that much. On myself, for instance, I learned the basics of programming when I was 16. I self-taught myself because I had, this nice calculator when you can do your math stuff with that, and realized you could program it using a language which looks like BASIC. And I was like, oh, I can program games. So my fellow students were using it also to cheat at exams, so they would program them to have all their cheat sheets there. And I said, oh, I should also try to create games. So if you want to play the worst Minesweeper ever, I probably have the code somewhere. Maybe not. It's not a good idea. But yeah, most people I know actually started to program at uni, even they are now like software developers. And they just wish that they had learned earlier. And we all think it's important for kids to learn how to program, how to become technologists in the future. So after that, I decided to actually become a software engineer. So I graduated from a Paris school, which is called ENSTA Paris Tech. I was specialized in software, but also robotics. So I worked for text mining. I love languages too. Then I worked for 7 years in a French robotics company, Aldebrun. One of the projects I work on was Ask Now, a project to teach skills to children with autism. So with my team, we were creating apps for them. It was just an awesome project. You can see a picture over there with a small robot. Those kids are actual kids from a primary school in Birmingham in the UK. It was just amazing kids, and the teacher, Sarah, she was just awesome. Then I just joined Ocado Technology last year to become the team lead for Code for Life, the project I'm going to talk to you about, which is just amazing. Ocado, so you probably met most of my colleagues at our booth, which is just right over there. So you might know that Ocado, as their T-shirts say, is an online grocery store, an online supermarket. So they're like, wait, what? Ocado, the online supermarket, programming coding games for kids? Why? That's the question that I have in the UK mostly. Why is that? So it actually makes sense because Ocado wants to give back to the community, and a group of volunteers started 2 years ago to work on this project because education is something that is important. It's at the core of the Ocado values. So it's something that the business actually is very pushing for it too a lot. It's because it's really awesome. We also have a foundation, the Ocado Foundation, that deals, with charity, like people from Ocado that want to give their time and volunteer on charities. The Ocado Foundation can back that up for the charity in question. So it's really brilliant. So you can see a few people from the team. This one is are people from Hatfield. So it's a weird mix of full-time people and volunteers. So now it's mostly internal volunteers from Ocado, but we are also looking to improve that and to have external volunteers on GitHub. So hey. These are people from, these are Polish volunteers, some of them that you can recognize there. Yes. No, you don't look creepy, Rafa, don't worry. They are all awesome people, and I want to thank them. So I said that it's important that we teach children the basics of computing, but your legitimate question was, yeah, okay, but why exactly? So I would just quote the words from Paul Clark, which is the director of technology at Ocado, which says that teaching children to program is not just about nurturing the next generation of software engineers. Being able to write code is a transformative and disruptive meta skill. Yeah, he liked those kind of words. That needs to be seen as being of huge potential value, whatever your future holds. I would go as far as to say that it is a survival skill that our children need to acquire to flourish in the increasingly digital and online future that awaits them. So the idea is not only to make sure that kids can become software engineers in a world where we actually have more and more jobs in the tech industry, but it's also something important to teach them. It's important to understand logical thinking and how to be able to solve problems, which is something that might be missing in actually most education systems right now. And it's also a way to make sense of their world, of the world we actually live in, not to be afraid of computers or robots or the internet, but to actually understand at least a bit of it would be very valuable. Most children, so they would like play games, they would use apps, but some of them might not understand what's behind them. And when you tell them that they can actually learn skills to program their own games, to actually change and shape the world, they're just like amazed. I can do stuff, I can hack Minecraft, they're just so pleased. So it's a good thing. Just if you, my slides are going to be available after, so I would just ask you if you please could click on those links and we'll choose 2 talks over there because they're really brilliant. The one in the bottom is about Kat Lehman. She's a teacher, a UK teacher. She gave a talk at PyCon UK a few weeks ago in Cardiff about why kids needs to learn how to program and how developers can help them. And the other talk about Linda Lukash that gives an excellent TEDx talk about a way to teach children how to program. I would really suggest to watch that. It's brilliant. No. Stuck. Okay. Yeah, the computer is fine, but I can. Okay. Yes, so I talked about the children, why children need to learn how to program. The way Code for Life does it is by teaching also, I would say, the teachers and helping the teachers going through the schools, the clubs, and the teachers. Not only, but it's a big aspect. So what is that about the teachers? Most of them actually have no idea what they're doing. That's true, especially in the UK. So in primary school, teachers will teach like everything from English to math to computer science without proper training most of the time. In high school, they would just be actually chosen because they are the less computer illiterate teachers they could find in the high school. That's not the best one, the less computer illiterate ones. So it probably needs to be changed at some point, but then they would need to have tools to help them teach the children because they fear that the children might be actually better at computing than they are, and it's actually frightening for a teacher. Yeah, they are also overloaded. They don't have time. They have a lot of administrative stuff to look into. So they just want something that will help them quickly and that they don't have to spend hours and hours trying to figure out. If they try to then say, OK, I need to find tools. Let's go online and find some coding resources for teachers. 25 million results. Oh, my God. What's that? Panic. Sorry. Poor teachers. That's true. So what should they do? Keep calm and use Code for Life, obviously. Yeah. Let's go into a bit more details about how our projects work, our current games, and what are the next steps. Our first game is for primary school. It's called Rapid Router. So it's age, I would say, 5 to 11, roughly. It's actually pretty good because it goes from like visual programming in Blockly, which is an open source graphical programming language, to text language, which is Python. And we have a nice progression in terms of computing concepts. So I'll try to make you a live demo of our game. Yay! So this is our website, which is completely free. You can go there now and use it and ask your children to play, for instance. So I just program. So we've got several levels. The first one are like really easy, like let's say 5 to 7, and they can get started with easy concepts. So you can see that the first one is just programming a van. So of course it's an Ocado van to go to a house to make deliveries. Here it's so simple. It's just like one block away. You just drag and drop the move forward here. Yay! You won. So that's pretty funny. A lot of sound designs. Also, the kids they have a lot of fun. So the next levels are, I would say, pretty similar. But at some point, it starts to be a bit complicated in terms of the path to take. So if you go like to this one, And you can see that the road is like a mess, right? You have to deliver to like, I don't know, 4 houses, and you can only use like all those blocks. So you have to painfully drag and drop everything, like 10 times, oh gosh, I got one wrong, etc. So it actually makes sense that the episode after, we introduce the concept of loops, like repeat loops, repeat. So they say, oh yeah, now it makes my life easier, I can program in a better way. So they just learn in a very progressive way. And there are also videos that explain to the children how the concept works, and it was made by Ocado people, so it's also a good way to talk about jobs in technology. So it's very interesting, actually. And here you can see now you've got a loop, and you can just, let's say I just use the loop without changing the number, so I repeat 10 times, move forward, but there are only 3 levels, so you have to try again. And you see, you know where your code is wrong. I've got a nice anecdote about that. I was talking to a developer at PyCon. He said, I just realized, like right now, thanks to your game, that actually this is a good way to teach about even testing to children in a fun way. That test can be fun because actually your small animation with the van is just actually testing your code against something. Because you could imagine then that if you make a code really generic, then you can change your map at random and just run that and see if it works in all edge cases, for instance. He said, that can actually be fun. I had never realized that, and it actually makes sense. I would say even for adults, gamification works, but for children, it just does wonders. One of the most interesting things, I think, that we offer to the classrooms is, as I said, a way to go from Blockly to Python. So here, it's just Blockly, and it's just going to load. There is, though, but okay, just to explain while it's loading, you can still program levels in Blockly, but then you have a small, you have a view of how it looks like in Python. So each time you drag and drop a block in Blockly, you know how it looks like in Python, which makes actually a lot of sense because later on we have Python levels, so Python when you only have to type in Python. So it's something really nice for the teachers that were looking into teaching things progressively. Okay. So talking about the teachers, we also offer them a lot of teaching materials, so say as they don't have to really think about it too much. So they have easy access to solutions for the levels, which means that they actually don't have to fish out for infos and not help the kids. They can help the kids like really quickly if they are having issues. They can program their lessons plans also quite easily. We have lots of PDFs that are now quite well sorted thanks to our UX designers' work. And unplugged activities, you can just print stuff and bring that to the school, as well as monitoring the students' progress. What they have is like a small dashboard when they can see which levels the students reach, etc. So it's pretty good for them to be able to actually assess what's happening. Okay, so I show you the games, and you can see like on the left, it's one of the Python levels. It's a way to program one of the vans, like, okay, while the van has not reached the destination, the van moves forward. It's really simple, but then you can ask, okay, they've learned a bit of Python, but on the right, that's a screenshot from IntelliJ, and that's actually our one of our Python files in our own code base. So it's like models.py, and it's just a list of the models for our rapid router game. And you can see that we use imports from the Django framework, things about localization. Oh, class, what is that? Object-oriented, I have no idea about what that is. Okay, how can we need to bridge this gap, and how to do that? I think it's also important to try to figure out ways to go smoothly to those kind of things. And That's why we actually have some new projects, because Rapid Router was only, as I said, for primary school. And now we are trying to work on a game for teenagers, which is more secondary school, which is massively multiplayer. So all the users, they can program their own avatar for the moment using Python, but we might add some more later, we'll see. And all the avatars need to be cleverer than the other ones. They all run on the same grid, which will expand the more users there are. So it's actually pretty cool. It's a pretty cool project. Of course, the levels at the beginning will be more simple. So you will have your own sandbox, and the task will be quite simple, maybe a bit like the van, like go from A to B, then you had an obstacles, and you can have event management and things like that, which makes sense. And for us, technically speaking, it's interesting because you're using things like Kubernetes to make sure that all the code from the users which run in the backend are separate from each other, for instance. We are also working on an iOS app that mimics a Rapid Router. We're using Unity, which is interesting because most of the schools that we can see on our analytics are using iPads, but it's also a good way for even the parents that sometimes are afraid that their children are going on the internet, what they're going to see. So this app will be offline, which makes perfect sense. We're also redesigning the whole teachers' pages to make sure that the registration process is simple, etc. We're trying to ease their life. We're also working on translations, mostly in Polish. Thank you, guys. Yay. And I've also added a Brazilian flag, and my colleagues earlier were like, why would you have Brazil there? And that's because Brazil is actually our third user. They have lots of schools registered to our project. So it might make sense to translate it in Brazilian Portuguese at some point, right? We're using a pretty good tool to manage our translations, which is crowded. It's really nice. We're also working on partnerships, for instance, with Uniwersytet Dzieci, which is, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you. So we have started a partnership mostly to help them create teaching materials and things like that. If you want to know more about it, we can talk a bit more after. But I think the plan is to release the first things in June next year, so that it's ready for September for the Polish teachers. So it's really exciting. We're also planning to add, of course, more levels. For instance, the game for teenagers is until 16, so we also need to find something for 17, 18, even if I'm sure they would enjoy it, this one too. But and maybe more skills, because computing is important, like learning computer science, but what about the other skills that you might need in technology? Agile, even product ownership, UX, and things like that. We believe that it's also possible to teach the basics to kids. So let's see what's happening in the future. It's all open source. It's all on GitHub, as I would tell you countless times. But if you want to contribute, feel free to go to our GitHub. It's a really nice project. So we used a lot of user research to make sure that we are improving things correctly. We have been created user personas based on interviews with teachers and children. That's how we're working right now on the redesign of the portal, because we know that those users are not completely happy with the way we are doing it right now. So for instance, we've got Omia Overloaded, which is a fake teacher, so a persona. That is the teacher that has no time for anything. So she wants things to happen quickly. She doesn't have time to register to stuff. So we need to think about this person, for instance. Personas are a really good way both for the developers to know who their public is, to actually put a face on their users and make sure they work properly. But it's just a really good UX tool to make sure that you understand the path your users are taking and what needs to be improved. So from that, our UX designer developed some user scenarios, which is like more detailed way to talk about how users are using our websites. This one is Naomi Nubi, so she's he likes the puns. She's the one that, the teacher that is really new to computing, that was chosen in schools because she is better at computer science than her colleagues, for instance. But still, she can get lost in our website pretty easily, etc. Whereas Terry Technical knows a bit more about that, for instance, but he also wants to use other tools to run his class, etc. So it's pretty interesting things, personas. And you can see also users flows. If you click on the link later, you can also have a look at everything in detail. I just put there some quotes that we have from our user research interviews because they're really funny. Some teachers said, it's a true story, we love Code for Life because we don't like to teach. A teacher, that sounds good. Some others said a lot of staff get addicted to it, so they also like to play it themselves. But I also like this quote from a teenager because we're trying to find a theme for our new game. So we asked them a lot of questions about the games that they like, etc. And we asked them, what is your gaming skill level? And they answered, better than you. Okay. So we've got lots of funny things like that, funny stories, but it's actually really useful to understand how to make things good for them. So how do we coordinate on this project? Because you see there are a lot of products, a lot of things happening. We are, the Ocado team at least, we are split within the UK and 2 offices in Poland, Wrocław and Kraków. So we have to coordinate. And also, as I said, we have so I'm the team lead of a small full-time team, so people that actually work on that full-time, but most of the other people are just volunteers from Ocado that work, for instance, on Wednesday evening when we have coding sessions with pizzas and beers and everything. So we have to make sense of how to coordinate. For instance, I introduced Kanban to my full-time team, but I can't go full Kanban like with the volunteers because they don't work full-time on the project, they are not in the same location, and also they might want to just do exactly what they want to do because, hey, guess what, they're volunteers. So some of them really like Kanban, they want to go with this process and they want to have like priorities. So we work together using ZenHub, which is a nice tool. You have a plugin for Chrome and Firefox. Then you have an integrated board within GitHub that makes sense of your issues. The issues are set up in a Kanban board. It's really nice. What else? Yeah, so we started also to give demonstrations on Wednesday and having stand-up meetings using our pet dinosaur, Tracy, over there, which is our token for stand-up meeting, trying to have fun. We talk a lot on Slack, Google Hangout, for instance, talk about the Polish teams from London. We talk with Hangout, for instance. Hey. We're also trying to improve our technical documentation, which is for the moment only on the Google Drive, maybe with the Jekyll website after, we'll see. But trying to have more guidelines so it's easier for people to contribute. So this is our development pipeline. Because you might be interested in more technical details. I know it's a Java conference, and most people from Ocado work, I would say, mostly in Java, sometimes Scala, but they had no idea about, for instance, Python. Some infrastructure guys do, but not everyone. So it's actually a good way also to learn new skills. For instance, one of the guys that know most about Python, we say is our Python guru, and he can help people a lot with understanding how to improve our code base. So it's really brilliant. So we use the Django framework. Of course, we're using front-end technologies like JavaScript, but yeah, HTML, we're trying to add Sass, etc. Raphael.js is what we use for our animations. It's pretty cool. We're using Sculpt, for instance, it's the in-browser implementation of Python. That's what we use in RapidRouter. We say also Kubernetes, Blockly, Crowdin, but Unity, which is in C#. So it's a lot of fun to actually develop on that project. You can really pick what you want, and it's really great. Then I say we're hosted on actually Google. We're using Google Cloud Services. Snap. So we have stopped using Jenkins, but we're on Snap CI for continuous deployments. Not really continuous, but anyway, we're trying to improve how we work. Using GitHub, Travis, and so there's just a lot of technologies and also a lot of fun. And also, that's a random picture of the doctor because I haven't many Doctor Who jokes so far, and I'm a big fan. So here it is. Enjoy. So if you want to know more about the project, like if you want to even contribute or just to talk about it, to have your kids play, or if you know teachers that might be able to help us with our interviews, just feel free to contact us. It would be awesome. Just you want to have a look. You have all the links there, the website, the emails, the Twitter, and the GitHubs. So I hope that was interesting, and thank you very much.